You are listening to the Bandwagoners, news and notes from around the NHL.
Hey, you've got the Bandwagoners. My name is Andy Cole.
And my name is Justin Boniface. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. How's your Thanksgiving?
Going pretty good so far. Got another big meal tonight, so I'm stoked.
Excellent. Yeah, you got round 1 of 2 out of the way. My dinner's tonight, so I'm looking forward to like 5 weeks of leftovers. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's been another good week of hockey. Obviously, we ended our last show. It was a one of 2 parts. We talked about the Eastern Conference and all the teams going on over there. Now we got the Western Conference going on. So yeah, let's get right into it. First place overall so far, off to a terrific start, much like they were last year.
Stoked on this.
Yeah, 5-0-0. We got the San Jose Sharks. They are absolutely on a tear right now.
Oh, I see. You're starting in the Pacific. Okay, I was saying I'm stoked on Colorado, who's 5-0-0, but that's the top of the Central. So yeah, San Jose doing incredibly well, but you are right. That is pretty standard for them. We don't really get a lot of surprises out of a San Jose regular season, as you and I have elaborated on many times. So we know they're going to make the playoffs. Especially, the only other rival team I see in this division right now is Vancouver and LA. Really.
Yeah. No, I mean San Jose has historically always had really strong starts, and obviously they've been that sort of consummate choke team. Like, they do really well in the season, they go deep into the playoffs, and just nothing comes of it. They've never won a cup. Maybe this year is the year. Maybe this is the first time where we could actually say they are a cup contender. I am leaning in that direction, and I'll tell you why. San Jose, for the first time ever, has an incredibly balanced attack across all 3 of their top 3 lines. Like, their top 9 is just terrific. And the reason I like this is because they have, 3 layers of age groups in there. They got Thornton and Marleau tearing it up right now. Then you got the mid-range guys, Couture and Pavelski. Couture isn't really even in his prime yet, but we're already including him in the mid-range category. And then he
does have 7 points in 5 games, so he is heating up, especially because his first 2 games were a little slow.
Yeah.
But expect him to have a major career-breaking season.
Absolutely. This will be a big year for Couture for sure. Pavelski's just steady Eddie back there. He's really underappreciated, I think, by a lot of people. And then you got Teenage Mutant Ninja Hertl, the super rookie out of San Jose, one of the most electric players to come into the NHL since Alexander Ovechkin, and he's absolutely tearing it up. This kid is outstanding.
7 goals in 5 games.
Unbelievable. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, not since almost, I want to say Solani, but even he's not at that pace yet. But 8 points total, so obviously it's all about the goal scoring for this kid. If you didn't get to see his 4-goal game, it was unreal. Scores a hat trick, and then for his 4th goal, just does a between the legs a la Marek Malik from the first year of the shootout.
Oh, beauty.
But in play with defenders chasing him, just dirty goal.
It was unreal. I think what's even more impressive about that 4-goal performance is this comes in 11 minutes of ice time. He scores 4 goals in 11 minutes of ice time. Just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I don't understand how people were ragging on the kid. They were saying he shouldn't have been showboating at his age. A lot of the more, conservative hockey purists find a goal like that a little bit offensive, and I just don't understand that, because to me it's entertainment. At the end of the day, hockey at a professional level is about entertaining the fans, and that was entertaining. So how some people could jump on the Hertl shouldn't have done that bandwagon is beyond me, because I thought that was a beautiful goal.
Well, who was it against? It was like the Avalanche or something like that? No, the Avalanche are undefeated. Anaheim, maybe? And in any case...
I believe it was New York, I believe, because I think it was Del Zotto which got really upset by that happening to him. He was really upset with that. So it's not even
in the same division, and that was a lot of arguments that I was hearing in the media, was that, all you're doing is angering the other team, angering the other bench, getting people pumped up to play against you, wanting to shut you up and all that kind of stuff. And that I can see that point of view coming from, you don't want to hurt your team, but it's not even a divisional rival. You're going to see New York maybe once again in the season. Mm-hmm. So there's no even real consequences there, and I agree with you completely. It's an entertaining move, and it takes a lot of skill to pull something like that off, especially with some of the best defensemen in the game hunting you down during the play.
Well, he just made Del Zotto look foolish.
Back to New York, that means he scored it against Henrik Lundqvist as well.
Yeah.
So just props to the kid for being able to pull something like that off.
Well, he made him look foolish, this veteran NHL defenseman. And to make matters worse, I think they were already up 7-2 at that point. So they had a substantial...
It was 6-0.
Yeah, it was just a blowout at that point. They had a substantial lead, and some guys were like, do you really want to be doing that move after that much, of a lead? You got to be a little, better of a sport in that sense, but I don't agree with that at all. I think it was a great move, and I'm glad he did it, and in my opinion, the NHL needs more of that. So,
yeah, I'd love to see more of it. I can see, and the other thing is you don't want to pull that move when you're up 3-2 or when it's tied 3-3 because that's a risky move. It's not just to put a point on the board. That is something that can get you in a lot of trouble if you were down by a goal and you decide to do that instead of set up a one-timer. So there are lots of arguments to be made, but I believe the setting was right for that move.
Yeah,
and he's a young kid. He's just going to do that. I mean, we remember Yakupov doing the crazy celebration, and we've seen PK Subban do that. And these guys just get a lot of energy and momentum, and when you're already pumped from scoring a hat trick in a game and you're 19 years old, go ahead, make some crazy stuff because you're probably not going to be able to get that opportunity very many times again.
Yeah, it might have been a different way of thinking had he have missed and not scored there, right? Some people then might have said, well, was that really the move to pull? But, I mean, you already are up by that much of a lead. Why not? Give the fans something to talk about. And I think this kid is just awesome. It's hilarious having people interview him because he doesn't speak a lick of English yet, eh? So it's like he gets interviewed and it's like you're interviewing a dog. He just has absolutely no idea what you're talking about. He just looks at you, sort of blinks his eyes, and sort of says random comments like, yeah, me had fun, good goal, good game. Not at all in relation to the question, but it's very entertaining. And I'm really excited for this kid. I think he's going to have a good year. I hope this wasn't just an anomaly. I hope he can continue on with it. As much as I, as a Canucks fan, hate San Jose, I hope for the NHL's sake that this kid keeps tearing it because he's just one of the most exciting rookies we've had in years. And how about that Thornton comment, eh?
I didn't hear that.
Okay, well, we're not on air, so I guess I could not bleep it out. This is offensive language for people that are listening, but pretty much what happened is a lot of people got mad at Vancouver reporter Jason Botchford for reporting this because they felt there's this unwritten code in the locker room that when people say stuff off the cuff in the background in the locker room, you're not really supposed to be reporting or recording it just because 99% of it is inappropriate to be aired, right? Well, Botchford did air it, and what pretty much he said is he was asking Patrick Marleau what he thought of the Hertl between the legs goal and if he thought it was appropriate. And before Marleau could even answer, Thornton chimed in the background and pretty much told sorry, it wasn't Botchford that was asking the question. It was the TSN reporter. His name's escaping me at the moment, but it was a TSN reporter asking the question, and Botchford was just sort of recording it. And before he could get his answer out, Thornton in the background told him to shut up. He said, "Shut up, do you even play the game of hockey?" I'm paraphrasing, but he said, "Shut up, do you even play hockey?" And then he went on to say, "If I scored 4 goals, my cock would be out. My cock would be out, and I'd be stroking it." And that's actually what he said. He actually said those words. That's not me paraphrasing there. He said,
"That's fantastic."
Yeah, he said, "My cock would be out, and I'd be stroking it if I scored 4 goals." And this was sort of off the cuff in the background. It made everybody laugh. But Botchford reported it, and it went into his Vancouver Province newspaper article. The actual line appeared there. And it was one of the best quotes of the year so far. People had a blast with it. It was hilarious. But a lot of people got mad at Botchford because is that the kind of thing you should really be reporting? It's a pretty crass comment,
Yeah, that seems more like something you might throw on your Twitter account. Something it definitely needs to be shared. I think it's good to know the camaraderie in the dressing room, and Thornton's a leader in that room, and you got to make your guys laugh, and you got to let them shrug it off because there was a lot of heat coming from the media towards Hertl and stuff like that too, right? So you got to make light of the situation. So I think Thornton's comment is totally appropriate. I think Botchford may have used the wrong media source to let it out, but at the same time, it gets people reading that newspaper. People now know Jason Botchford, who probably didn't know him prior. I know he, guest shows up on TSN every once in a while. But,
do you find the comment
probably don't know who he is? So,
do you find the comment is too dirty to be aired, or do you think he was right in? Because, it's pretty crass. It's not the kind of thing you normally read in a Sunday newspaper.
That's the kind of thing that I'm saying. The outlet of media may not have been the best choice. It's, it's what we say, any publicity is good publicity. But I like that the comment is out there. I think that it would have been better on a social media website like Twitter or something like that. But I like that the comment is known by the public and that it's known in the hockey world. I think it's hilarious. And I think Joe Thornton's exactly right. How many times do you get to score 4 goals goals in a game. It doesn't happen, let alone when you're 19 years old. So Joe Thornton's saying the same thing. When he's 40 years old, he had a 4-goal game, he'd still be that stoked. So,
yeah, and
that's pretty stoked.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd ever want to see Thornton score four goals after that comment. I think,
exactly.
Yeah, that would be pretty.
You'll get his coach benching him after the hat trick.
Yeah, you're not allowed on the ice. You're not allowed on the ice. Where are your pants, Thornton? Where are your pants? Don't worry, coach. I got this. Yeah, no, I'm going to defend Botchford here as well. Being a local boy, obviously he's a Vancouver beat writer. In his defense, normally those kind of comments are in the background while guys are talking, and obviously at that point you're not really recording. But when Thornton piped up and said those comments, he actually waited for all of the cameras to turn to him with their recorders on him, and then he kept going with the quotes. So, I mean, I think Thornton kind of had an idea that it was probably going to be on the record, so, I mean, that's a bit of a defense as well. But yeah, we spent way too much time on those stupid San Jose Sharks. I don't want to talk about them anymore. This is just depressing me. But yeah, San Jose's first in the West right now. Well, I should say tied with Colorado, the next team we're going to discuss. And yeah, both of us, I think, are in agreement that San Jose will make the playoffs as they always do. But do you think this is the year maybe they do win a cup?
No.
You still say no?
I think that curse is going to be an everlasting type thing. I compare it to a Vancouver Canucks curse. I know you hate me for saying that, but
they're very similar teams in that respect.
They've gone years without it, and it just never seems to work out. And I don't know that it will in the near future. San Jose is has more talent than they did last year. They've been building. They have a better roster, but I just don't see them being able to contend in 7-game series with the powerhouses in the West. I don't even see them making it to the Stanley Cup final.
Really? Okay, well, it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. Part of me agrees with you, but part of me thinks, based on the youth movement that they now have, and with Couture coming into his own this year, you might see them go a little bit further than before, but I'm not necessarily going to pick them as the cup winner. But I say there is an outside chance they do make it to the finals this year, if they continue playing the way they do. On to the second team, surprising everybody right now, the Colorado Avalanche are 5-0-0, the best start in the history of the franchise.
Bodes well for Patrick Waugh and the rest of the new front office, just because it takes a lot of pressure off you. Now you have the ability to go on a losing streak and not get too grilled, and that's a huge benefit because Colorado's still very young, still very susceptible to those ruts. So I believe that they're in a good place right now to get themselves ahead of the game for making the playoffs, because it's going to be a tough season for this roster.
It is, and I mean, I think a lot of it is now, as we've discussed in previous years. Their young guys are sort of, when will they all finally make that next step, kind of like how the Islanders did last year. I think this is the year you are seeing them make that next step, that step which the Edmonton Oilers still have yet to make, and which the Islanders made in the previous season. You got guys like Duchesne just playing out of this world right now.
Unbelievable goal the other night, that dirty dangle, does a little toe drag, brings it to the inside, underneath the defenseman's stick, outside, inside again, and then top corner. How you make that many moves in that little space is unreal.
And how about that empty netter against the Bruins? You don't normally talk about empty netters, but there was 2 Bruins in front of him racing for the puck, and he beats them both out and scores that empty netter.
Oh, and he's behind them by 5-6 feet, just turns on the gas and flies.
And one of them's Bergeron too, who's a pretty good skater to begin with, so he was really caught flat-footed there, and Duchesne just took it to an extra gear. He looked like the Roadrunner. It was really cool to see. I mean, it was probably one of the best empty net goals I've ever seen, just based on the effort that he put in. But yeah, Duchesne's having...
I want to actually digress off for a second, just because we're not going to hit Eastern teams anymore, but there was a classy play on an empty net goal too. In the East of Montreal, Daniel Briere had the whole net, and Pacioretty had been on a slump. He hadn't scored a goal in 3 games yet, and he's supposed to be our top scorer, and Daniel Briere just tosses it over to Patch to give him an empty net goal. So
nice.
So you get
the
crazy hard ones, and then you get the ones where it's it's not all about the points, it's about helping out your team. So I like that play. But just a side note.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Pacioretty, you think he hasn't been playing so well. So, I mean, against the Canucks, he looked great, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought he looked really, really good against us, but everyone looked good against us that game.
Kind of like Higgins. I mean, hasn't been able to buy a goal. Higgins has something like 21 shots. And he just can't buy one. So Pacioretty, a little bit of the same curse, but
it happens to everyone. I mean, Booth went through something similar last year, and he's kind of going through it again. So it happens to players. But going back to Colorado, I got to say, besides Duchesne, you got Landeskog playing incredibly well. He's really he's not having a sophomore slump. He's looking great. And then you got the rookie, who I'm so glad I picked in my pool.
No kidding.
Nathan McKinnon is just tearing it. He looks like He looks like he's been in the league for 5 years already. This kid does not look like a rookie. He plays with such poise, such patience. He's probably, I wouldn't say the most skilled rookie that I've seen come into the NHL ever, but I would say the most ready rookie. Like, he looks like he has been playing in this league for years. He does not look like an NHL rookie. He looks terrific, and he's been a huge factor into Colorado's surge here.
Oh, yeah, he's leading the team in points and brings a lot of energy to that dressing room. And I think the first game really helped him out because Patrick Waugh, that whole Patrick Waugh event we talked about last time about his standing up for the hit on McKinnon. And, there's a lot of support. When you get that kind of support from your coach and from your team and you're like, wow, I got to give back, right? Like, they're standing up for me. And McKinnon just took it to another level even after that first game when he played great and did that no-look backhand pass.
Yeah.
But just stepping it up another notch every game. I just see him looking for new ways to do things, new ways to beat players, and it's so early in the season. It's incredible going to be watching him for 82 games.
But now the question remains, with Patrick Waugh as the coach now in this new system they're playing, a lot of it's excitement, new coach, new system. It is Patrick Waugh, after all, the most celebrated goaltender of all time, next to Martin Brodeur, and probably next to Joe Sakic, the most famous Av of all time. Is this just a bit of a hot streak, or do you think the Avalanche can carry this on and make it into the playoffs?
I think they'll make the playoffs this season. I don't know that they're going to continue to dominate the Western Conference like they are currently, but what I do like about Colorado is the young roster and the energy that they bring to the team. And Patrick Waugh, I think that he's going to be hard to figure out. I don't think he's going to bring a lot of your mainstream coaching philosophies to the bench. It's going to be a lot like Dallas Eakin and Edmonton. You're going to have some new philosophies come in that it's going to take, I think, more than a season to figure out for a lot of teams. And I want them to do well. A lot of young Canadian talent, and that's part of the reason why I'm thinking and hoping they make the playoffs, is because I like them quite a lot. They look like a great team.
They're very exciting to watch. They probably are terrified of Patrick Waugh. I mean, I'm thinking that's probably part of it. He probably initiates random beatings every once in a while, so he's that kind of coach. He's very intense. I'm joking about the beatings, but that would be funny. But yeah, I think I agree with you. The Avalanche will make the playoffs. I don't know how deep they will go, but it looks like they've taken that next step, a very important step, and I think they're going to be a very good team for years to come. They could probably use a bit more depth on their bottom six, and they could probably use a little better defensive depth as well outside of their top two pairing. But their goaltending looks terrific. Who is it? Giguère in net for them right now. He looks excellent. He's probably the best he's played since he was a Duck. And yeah, I think it's going to be a good year for them. So yeah, moving on to number 3 on the list, the team that a lot of media outlets actually picked to win the Cup this year. They're third in the West at 4-0-0. You got the St. Louis Blues, which is no surprise to me. They are a very good team, incredibly deep. They don't have like a set group of stars necessarily, outside of maybe Pietrangelo, who is one of the best defensemen in the league. Outside of Pietrangelo, they don't really have a set group of star players. But they're incredibly deep, incredibly well coached, and got a terrific goaltending tandem in Elliott and Halak. So I think St. Louis is probably going to go deep this year. I'd pick second, maybe even third round. How about you?
I would agree with you completely. One of the reasons has got to be Vladimir Tarasenko. 4 points in 4 games.
Yep, he's terrific.
Where he left off last season. So look for him to be the new star on the team. He'll make it up through the roster to the top 6 pretty quickly, I would think. Mm-hmm. And then you got new additions like Derek Roy coming in, so that adds some speed to the roster that was mainly quite physical and big. So I think they're a little more well-versed now, and with that, they should go deep. I agree, third round. It'd be nice to see St. Louis there again. It's been a long time since maybe the Al MacInnis days since we've seen them that deep. So
yeah, I think they're going to have a very good year. I don't know if I'd necessarily pick them to win the Cup, but I definitely think there's an outside chance that they can do it just based on their overall layer of depth. Fourth place, you got the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. I'm calling them the Mighty Ducks right now because of their 20th anniversary throwback game they played last night, where they actually donned the Mighty Ducks jerseys from 95-96. God, that makes me feel old thinking of those as retro jerseys, but it wasn't that long ago to me that they were wearing them. But those jerseys look awesome, man. I don't know how you felt about that, but I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I always like going classic throwback, no matter how ugly the jerseys are. Those ones aren't so bad, but yeah, it's always nice to see a classic dress team. And I love the 95 Ducks too. I mean, you gotta love that, old Paul Kariya days and stuff like that. So
yeah.
the 90s. Great hockey. Great to see that back. I'm loving the Ducks this year. I mean,
4-1-0.
Doing fine without Bobby Ryan. It doesn't look like they're missing too much there. Teemu Selanne, ageless, unreal.
Yep.
Saka Koivu seems ageless, getting new spirit from playing with the Ducks. I love their veteran leadership, and I think they got a high probability of going deep in the playoffs as well.
Yep, they are a very good team, very deep as well. Hiller looks great. Their defense is solid. Their scoring really led by Getzlaf, Perry, and Solani. Getzlaf is looking great this year, as is Perry. As you said, they're not really missing Ryan that much. They got, who is it that's doing really well? Right, in my pool, so I'm happy to see he's doing well. Jacob Silfverberg's looking great with the top line. He's looking like last year was not a fluke. He looks like he is turning very quickly into a bona fide star in this league. Very underappreciated. A lot of people don't realize how much skill this kid has, but he is terrific. And I think he's more than going to make up for what Bobby Ryan brought to the team. Jacob Silfverberg is excellent, and one of the best wrist shots in the game right now. Like, this kid, when he lets it fly, man, it is a powerful shot, and he's looking great. And I think he's part of the reason why the Ducks are doing so well. As we said, they're fourth right now, 4-1-0. I agree with you. Playoff contender for sure. I think probably second, third round isn't out of the question. I don't really have much bad to say about this team. They're looking really good. So fifth now, we got, surprising everybody, I might say.
Yeah, no kidding.
Fifth right now, surprising everybody, the Calgary Flames. 3-0.
All due to Joey McDonald. That's the only reason they're here right now. I mean,
3-0-2
is fitting in quite well and getting a lot of points, but I would look for him to slow down. But McDonald's just played unreal. He's been out of this world.
Yeah, 3-0-2. Nobody would have thought this. The Calgary Flames were ridden off by everyone. Bottom of the barrel, they would be last place for sure. Just play for the pick pretty much this year is what people were saying. Do you think it's Burke at all? Do you think he's having anything to do with it?
I haven't seen too many major moves by him yet that have impressed me. And like I said, Yuri Hudler is the newest addition that stands out to me. I don't even know. I think he joined before Burke took the reins there. But nothing that says to me that he has put his mark on this team like he did with the Ducks, like he did with the Leafs.
Yeah, Calgary looks terrific. And you're correct. Hudler was there before. David Jones looks very good. He's a solid addition to the team.
That's from Colorado, right? That's the kid from Colorado.
Yeah, he's a Vancouver. Yeah, he's a Vancouver boy.
Him, yeah, Vancouver boy,
local boy,
power forward. Didn't really find the groove in Colorado. I felt that he should have got a little more ice time, so I hope he finds it in Calgary. And it's nice that he's back in Canada too.
Yeah, he's a skilled player. It's good to see him doing well. TJ Galliardi is a nice pickup for them as well. They are, in my opinion, playing far above their capabilities. I don't know if this will continue. I still don't think they're going to make the play. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, in my opinion. I still think this is a big surge by them. They're hot right now, no pun intended. And yes, McDonald is playing lights out. But what if he doesn't play lights out? What if he starts faltering? They really got nobody else to back him up.
Ramo is actually the certified starter who's just not been getting the games because McDonald's been playing so well. So Calgary clearly going to work a tandem system this year to see who can get the starting position.
But yeah, Ramo hasn't been in the NHL in like 4 years. So I mean, who's to say that he's even going to be able to do what they want him to do, right? I mean, Calgary is playing so much better than they should be. I do not see this continuing on through an entire 82-game season. If they were to make the playoffs, that would be a huge upset over another team that was expected to make it. Like, if they were to, like, for example, make it over the Canucks, people would be like, are you kidding me? So I don't picture the Flames making the playoffs, but you never know. I mean, maybe this is going to carry forward. Maybe they have found some sort of magic mojo and they're going to keep playing the way they are. And do you see them making the playoffs at all?
No, I'm agreeing with you. As usual, I just think they're overachieving and there's nowhere to go but down.
Yeah, I agree. But it's great to see right now how they're playing. And they got that wild card, a couple young guys in Backlund and Sven Barchi, both exceedingly skillful. So, I mean, in theory, if both of them were to play to their full potential and finally find that game, they are both star potential players. So, in theory, let's just say for a second they carry on as they've been playing. There's an outside chance with those two guys up front that you might, with Barchi and Backlund and Camilleri as your top line, if the other two guys are playing to their potential, that's a pretty damn good line. So, I mean, there is that outside shot. And, of course, Giordano and Weidman as your top two pairing, they're both exceptional defensemen. They're both veteran guys. Giordano's looking great with the C. So, I mean, there is that, outside possibility of them playing well throughout the entire year. But yeah, I don't see this carrying forward. But we'll see. Maybe we'll be wrong here. Maybe Calgary will be that surprise team this year that catches other teams off guard. Who knows?
So next up, we got the Phoenix Coyotes. They are looking decent right now, but I think they're in the Calgary boat as well. They're overperforming. They need players like Mike Ribeiro to step up, Shane Doan to step up, and we haven't year after year really seen. Ribeiro had a great year last year, but other than that, kind of an underachiever. So sitting at 6th right now, 4-2-0. Yeah, Phoenix. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think it's unlikely that they make the playoffs unless Mike Smith has another incredible year and guys like Verbata and Ribeiro stand on their heads and carry them forward. They do finally have ownership now and stability in the dressing room, so maybe that's playing into it as well, why they're doing better than they should be. I mean, they've overachieved in the past and made the playoffs, so it's not out of the realm of possibility to assume that they might once again do it and make the playoffs. But I agree, like Calgary, I think they are overachieving right now. I don't see them carrying on this hot streak. But, my gut tells me they don't make the playoffs. But, like Calgary, I could be wrong. I have Chicago in 6th place and Phoenix in 7th on what I'm looking at, but mine might be out of date. But the next one...
Well, remember, there's a lot of teams that are tied, too. I'm looking at Chicago having 7 points in 8th spot, and Phoenix and LA having 8 points apiece in 6th and 7th.
I guess it's just how they're listed in their divisions. That's what's putting them above them, because I have Chicago at 6th, but whatever. We'll go by points then. So in 7th place then, tied with Phoenix. Not at all surprising they're in a playoff spot. The Los Angeles Kings at 4-2-0.
It's tough to say a playoff spot right now when there's like a 3-point difference between 14th and 2nd.
Yeah, we gotta kind of wait a little bit, I think, before we could really make that call.
Yeah, I would look for LA and Chicago both to move up in this standings quite quickly. I mean, you look at their records. LA is 4-2-0. That's a good record.
It is.
Games above 500. You continue on that, which they will for sure.
Yep.
Come on, Jonathan Quick's like the best goalie in the league. He'll be starting for Team USA in the Olympics. So
yeah, no, they got a great goaltending roster. They're once again their roster is virtually unchanged, other than adding Fratton and Carcillo, both who've been playing quite well. Carcillo, the tough guy, and Fratton, obviously a top 6, could potentially be a top 3. He has that in him. They picked him up from Toronto for the Bernier trade, and he was the main piece in that trade. He's playing quite well as well. He looks very good. LA, as you said, they'll go up, they'll move up, they'll be a cup contender again. They'll most likely make the conference finals. I could see that happening again. They're very deep. Their roster is just as good as it was last year, if not better, even with losing Bernier. Scrivens is a very capable backup. I think LA is going to have a very good year, and playoffs for sure. They will go deep. I could see very quickly Calgary and Phoenix moving down the list, and Chicago and LA moving up the list just based on their rosters. So LA is not at all surprising they are where they are. And then in 8th place, it is surprising to think of them in 8th place, considering by all consideration they really should be first, because they have the exact same roster as last year. The Chicago Blackhawks really should be first in the West right now, but I guess they're playing in a bit of a slump in their perspective. Although it's still a very good record, they're in 8th place at 3-1-1. They are playing very good hockey, so I mean, if they continue to play the way they are, I definitely see them moving up the roster as well. Very highly probable they'll make the conference finals again. Almost putting money on it, they'll make the conference finals, actually. And they may once again win a Stanley Cup. They are that good. They could be the next dynasty in the NHL that we're looking at. They are possibly the new Detroit Red Wings in that sense. Like, they have what it takes to be considered a dynasty. And I would not at all be surprised, as much as I hate to say this as a Canucks fan, to see them win another cup. I think it could very likely happen.
Yeah, I think so too. It's incredible that year after year we see players picking up slack for other players on the Blackhawks. They're so deep. Right now, Jonathan Toews not dominating like crazy. Brandon Saad playing well but not up to his full potential. Patrick Sharp, same deal. And they're still everywhere. Mainly Patrick Kane and Duncan Keith just dominating right now. Patrick Kane's always a goal-scoring threat. But, I mean, these players are going to get hotter as the season goes on. They always do. They warm up. Brandon Saad was unreal last year. I don't think he's going to have any kind of slump to follow his previous season. So, I mean, look for them to probably be one of the highest-scoring teams in the NHL and definitely going deep in the playoffs.
Yeah, Crawford's playing very well as well. I mean, obviously, in the back of his mind, he wants that starting job at the Olympics, and he knows he's going to have to play very well well to beat out Price or Luongo for that position. So Crawford definitely has an outside motivation to play the way he's playing. I thought he's looked great so far. You are correct. I mean, if the Blackhawks, do you imagine how good they'd be if all of their 4 lines were clicking all at once? It just would be game over. They look like
not even fair.
They would look like they did last year when they went on that incredible winning streak. I mean, at their best, they are better than any other team in the NHL, and I'm including the Eastern Conference Pittsburgh Penguins in that category. The Blackhawks are the team to beat in this league. So, I mean, if they're at 100%, you're going to have to play your ass off to beat these guys because they are the real deal for sure. And yeah, I could see both of them and LA moving up in the standings, and teams like Calgary and Phoenix, while both potentially still able to make the playoffs, probably not staying in the spots that they are. So yeah, now moving out of the top 8, not really a surprise, I guess. The 9th spot, we got Minnesota, 2-1-2. They're playing as about what I would expect them to play. I don't see them making the playoffs, even with their, even with Ryan Suter playing as well as he does play. I mean, Suter is just a machine, one of the best defensemen in the league. And obviously you got Parise, who always plays well. I mean, he's a consummate 30-goal guy. And don't forget, they got Nino Niederreiter, who is actually playing better than I expected him to play. He's looked really good. And maybe this is his breakout season potentially, or at least starting to aim in that direction. Even with their team playing it to full potential, I don't know if I see them making the playoffs. I mean, I guess they could squeeze in the 8th spot. They have a decently deep roster, and obviously guys like Jonas Brodin, potentially the next Carlson, like he's one of the up-and-coming offensive defensemen in the league. He's a potential Norris guy down the road. He has a lot of capabilities. And then you got guys like Charlie Coyle, Jared Spurgeon, obviously offensive threat in Jason Pominville. So, I mean, they have this roster of potentials that if they were all playing 100%, yeah, they probably would make the playoffs, squeezing in that 8th spot. But I don't know. I don't know if they will make the playoffs this year. I'm leaning towards saying that they won't. And if they did make it, they would be like one of those wild cards that made it in, at the very last minute.
I think they will make it. I think they're going to be in the playoffs in a 7th or 6th position probably. I think they have a lot of potential over some of the other teams in the West, mainly because of Josh Harding. I really like his goaltending. He's been great early, posting a .944 save percentage and goals against just over 1.
He's wrestled that starting job away from Backstrom, which is really impressive.
Yeah. Exactly, and you're seeing this more in the NHL. You're seeing tandems come up and people battling for that starting position, and that can only strengthen your team to have 2 goalies competing against each other, trying to win you games so that they can keep their job. And the only thing that I don't like right now is Matt Cook on top of the point totals in Minnesota. I don't like Matt Cook, and it's a little bit scary to think that he would be a leading scorer on any team in the NHL. So you don't have a lot of potential when he's beating out guys like Zach Parise and Ryan Suter. But I think they're going to have a great year, honestly, better than a lot of people think. I don't think you're going to see them in the 3rd spot or winning the division or anything like that, but we'll see them in the playoffs. Mikko Koivu really wants to play well for that team and finally make a strong postseason appearance. Ryan Suter needs to prove that he's just as good without Weber. And Zach Parise, taking that huge contract and a little bit of a letdown last year. So look for them to kind of spark and try and live up to the names that they've made for themselves.
I think Weber proved a lot of people about that last year, being a Norris finalist. I mean, I think he showed that he didn't need Weber.
It's tough to shut people up with a half season. I mean, like
yeah, that's true. You do need a full 82
Subban
games.
Might not have, or shouldn't have won this, and blah 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 blah. I mean, a lot of people hate Subban to begin with, so that probably had something to do with it. But it's hard to say that you proved yourself after only 40 games.
This is true. You really need that full season to really shut people up and prove your doubters wrong. And I mean, yeah, listening to you talk like that, I kind of agree. I'm kind of starting to agree with you now. Maybe, 7th spot, maybe 6th. But I mean, you could see Minnesota at the end of the day beating out teams like, Calgary and Phoenix, who really don't deserve probably to be as high as they are. So I mean, if Minnesota plays to their capabilities and a team like Phoenix or Calgary stop overperforming, then yeah, I mean, Minnesota making the playoffs seems more likely. Maybe 6th spot. I'm going to still lean towards 7th, maybe squeaking in on the 8th spot. But I agree with you in a sense. I mean, they do have a good roster, so if they all play to their potential, the playoffs should not be out of the question at all.
Yeah, and I hate to say this for Canada, but moving on the list, the Winnipeg Jets, I think, are going to fall to near where Edmonton is, and I think both of them are going to stay near the bottom. Winnipeg's going to have a tough time in this conference. It's new hockey for them, less travel time, but
it's 3-3.
The same thing is with Detroit. Yeah. Detroit has to figure out all these new teams and
3-3-0 right now. 3-3-0.
Yeah. So not doing too bad, holding their own. But at the same time, it's going to be a grind of a season. They don't have a very deep and talented roster. They have enough to grind out some wins, but it's a talented conference, and they're not going to be used to playing against these teams. They didn't even see any of them last year. So.
Yeah, and so many of their guys still are young and unproven. I mean, they are like Colorado last year. Is this the year they take that step and get the young guys, other than Evander Kane, who always looks terrific? Is this the year that their young guys take that leap forward? Well, right now it looks like no. I mean, they're not ready to take that leap yet. They are still too young overall to really be a threat. Down the road, even one season from now, they might be top 7, top 8. They have the skill there potentially.
But once you get Mark Scheifele and Evander Kane a year or two older, Tobias Enstrom, they'll definitely be solid in a season or two. But this year, I just don't see them cracking the top 10 in that conference.
I agree with you. I mean, they went from a very easy division in the Southeast to a very difficult division. I mean, their division, it's let's look this up here, actually. I'm kind of curious now that I'm thinking about it. Who do you got? They are in the same division with, Minnesota, Chicago, St. Louis, and Colorado. So, I mean, they have...
Not easy.
Not exactly an easy division. They have definitely a lot more challenges in front of them this year. This year might be the sort of the write-off year where they have to adapt to their new surroundings, which is too bad because, I mean, I really felt after the last couple of years that Winnipeg was so close to that playoff spot, almost making it a couple of years ago. They're so close to that spot, that 8th spot, and it feels like they're kind of regressing this year, only because of how different their opponents are. And it's too bad to say that, because I know Jets fans are probably like, this is the year we finally make it into the playoffs, and I don't think so, Jets fans. I think it's going to be one more year before you see Winnipeg really take that next step. 11th spot, you got my Vancouver Canucks, 3-3-0. Pretty much playing as I expected October to fold. I recognize Tortorella's system is vastly different from Vigneault's, especially defensively. Guys like Luongo really have to adapt their game to all of these blocked shots, and guys have to get better at blocking them because, as Luongo himself said, if you're going to block the shot and deflect it into my own net, you're making it much harder on me. So, I mean, I'm not at all surprised at the record. I had a feeling October would kind of be a write-off month for the Canucks as they really... adapted to the new system.
It usually is. I mean, for the Canucks, even without adapting to a new system, they just seem to need to warm up in the league, and by December they're dominating. So we might see that again. Tortorella is the big question mark.
They still have a very good team, and I mean, Luongo has looked quite good for the most part, other than that one goal against Montreal. But to be fair, I don't really blame it on him. I mean, I think it was Hamhuis that really just crapped the bed there. Hamhuis has been our worst player so far this season, which is weird because he's usually our most consistent player. He's a very good defenseman. Some people are even wondering if he might get an Olympic tryout this year. He's very, very, very reliable in the back end, but he has probably been the most... He's probably been the one that's had the most trouble adapting to Tortorella's system. I mean, he's really been struggling. It's not going to continue. He will find his game. He's a very skilled player. And they do have a very good roster. And, I mean, I guess one of the few highlights is the Sedins have continued to dominate. I mean, they are the Harlem Globetrotters when they're out on the ice. They are a dominating force, and they've played incredibly...
One goal in Montreal was insane. Like, past the goal line, no look backhand
pass,
out to the slot.
It's
Price is like in no man's land on that.
Yeah, Price is just like, are you kidding me? Like, what are we supposed to... Yeah, I mean, it's just, they're incredibly skilled. And I mean, next to Datsuk, they're two of the most wizardry-style hockey players out there. They just look like magicians out there. So they're playing very well. But at the same time, you got guys like Ryan Kessler, who's been completely invisible. Obviously, Burrow's injury has been a big loss. Cassian...
I feel like we talk about Kessler being invisible a lot. And it's to me, it's like almost like Alex Kovalev. Like, so much talent, and we just don't see it all the time. Like, why not? There's no reason. There's no solid reason. I can never come up with why isn't Kessler doing well. There's no logical reason other than that injury in the playoffs against Boston when he kind of went silent late because they didn't announce all their injuries. But other than that, it's like, where are you?
Yeah, Kessler's hard,
especially since a 40-goal season.
I know. He's hard to figure out because when he's on his game, he's one of the best players in the league, especially in a two-way style. I mean, he's right up there with Bergeron and Datsuk as and Taves is one of the top two-way guys in the NHL when he's 100%. He just has looked like he's been struggling as well with Tort's system. A lot of guys have. Higgins looks like he's still figuring the system out. Booth has looked better, but still not as good as, the 35-goal scoring Booth has looked. So, I mean, there are a lot of guys that are still, you could tell, very hesitant about the new system. Hansen has been struggling. Cassian obviously being suspended for the first 5 games. He's looked okay, but he's got to get going. Obviously, he's going to take him a couple weeks to find his game after that suspension. The suspension to Edler doesn't help. Sidetracking for a second, I was really annoyed that was a 3-game suspension at first, especially since it didn't look like it was an intentional headshot. It was sort of an accident. Hertl ducked at the last minute. Edler wasn't really able to stop at that point. He was mid-flight. So, I was really annoyed by that suspension, but then I thought, well, he is a repeat offender. That's why he's getting the 3 games, because this is the 3rd suspension that he's had. So if it wasn't the fact that he was a repeat offender, Edler probably would have just gotten a game. A lot of Canucks fans were pissed that he got 3 games for that semi-accidental hit. But you got to remember, that's the rules. If you're a repeat offender, it's going to count towards more games. So I'm not surprised by the 3 games. It's been unfortunate. Edler's looked really good. He's looked better than Hamhuis, which is very bizarre because Edler is usually the defenseman that struggles the most, but he's looked quite good under a Torch system. So it sucks to have him out for those 3 games. Burrow's injury obviously messes with the chemistry a lot and the line. So I'm not super worried. I don't think it's a write-off season for the Canucks. I'm not freaking out. I'm very confident they'll make the playoffs. I don't know how deep they'll go in the playoffs. I think if they make the second round, that would be overachieving for them this year. But they will. I just don't see them going deep. I think they are sort of in a semi-rebuild. I don't see them going deep this year. They still have a very good team, but I'm sorry, as a Canucks fan myself, it pains me to say, I think a second round exit seems likely. And if they go farther than the second round, in my opinion, they're overachieving at that point. But I'm not worried. Even in the 11th spot right now, I think the playoffs are a foregone conclusion. They will make it. They will find their game. You got to give them a month or so, Canucks fans, but the Canucks will find their game, and I think they're going to have another good year. And I really like Tortorella so far. I'm really impressed by what he's brought.
Just a little more on Ryan Kesler, too, just because I was going through the stats here. And a little bit surprising, actually. Not only is he not on the score sheet and been invisible, he's actually been detrimental to the team. He's -5 after 6 games, and he leads the team in penalty minutes with 11 penalty minutes after 6 games, too. So injuring the team right now. Not even invisible, just actually hurting his teammates here.
Yeah, so he's really got to find his game.
Especially that's unheard of when it's a player that you've compared not only just 1 season ago or 2 seasons ago being compared to Mark Messier.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Yeah. No, it's true.
He needs to step up if they're going to do what you are saying they're going to do. I agree with you that a second place exit is likely, but if they're going to make the playoffs, he needs to be a way bigger role player.
And let's clarify, we're not talking about the Vancouver Canucks Mark Messier, who, as far as I'm concerned, that never happened. That never actually happened. That was a dream sequence. Mark Messier has only been a Ranger and an Edmonton Oiler, and I'll fight you if you say otherwise.
And what about Sundin as well, eh?
Actually, you know what? It's weird. Some Canucks fans actually ragged on that. I didn't mind that move at the time. I knew he was only going to be there for the playoffs. I liked Sundin in a Canucks uniform for the limited time that he was on the Canucks. I didn't think he was bad at all. He was fine. He wasn't great, but he was. I don't think he was detrimental like Messier was. He was. It was cool to see him in that limited time, to see a Hall of Famer. His very last season finished with the Canucks. It was cool to see. And I got to say, I was very excited when I heard about that trade. I was really, really happy that Gillis was able to land him. Or not the trade, I should say, a free agent signing. Moving along, 12th spot. Not really surprising. Dallas is in 12th at 2-2-0. They don't really have that deep of a roster. I'm not expecting them to make the playoffs this year. One amazing statistic, though, and this carries over from last season when we were talking about this kid at the end of the year, Alex Chasen, he's got 11 points in his first 10 games in the NHL. How about that stat?
Yeah, that's insane. And you look at their roster right now, and there's just the young guys everywhere. Jamie Benn, Jordy Benn, Tyler Seguin. They're on top of the score sheet in this city. And Tyler Seguin, it's great to see his name up there. 6 points in 4 games. Dallas is not going to make the playoffs, but you gotta have Tyler Seguin having a great season so he can shut up a lot of his critics. The trade from Boston, just saying he didn't fit in with that roster. They got Louis Eriksson, which is a great pickup. But Seguin doing well in Dallas, I'm really happy to see that. The Canadian talent, him and Jamie Benn both doing well. Just awesome.
And fast forward a year or two. When Seguin is in his prime with Benn and Nishkanen and Chasen, in theory, they got a pretty good young core, so it's not out of the realm of possibility to think that they might, a couple years from now, be a pretty damn good team. But they're just...
remember, Sagan's only 21 years old. Like, there's 4 or 5 years left before he enters his prime.
Yeah.
So, 6 points in 4 games, looking to have a breakout season at the age of 21. That's awesome.
And Niskanen was a steal for them as well. I mean, he's a highly skilled player. So, I mean, they definitely have some bright spots. And, I mean, there will be a playoff entrance eventually. It's not going to be this year, though, I'm sorry, Stars fans. I will say this, though. Best new jerseys in the league. Those jerseys are awesome. Just eye-popping.
I don't care for them too much. I mean, not that they're bad.
Oh, come on.
I wasn't blown away. I didn't think it was anything spectacular, but it's a nice change.
That bright green out there, it's just like, oh, it's great.
The color's great. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, if that's the best thing you're talking about this year is our new jerseys, it's going to be a long season in Dallas.
Yeah.
So yeah, moving forward, we got 13th place Nashville Predators, 2-3-0. Not surprising, really. I mean, in my opinion, the last several years they've overachieved. I mean, they've played
all thanks to Pecorine.
Yeah, they've played far, far, far better than they should have the last few years. Obviously, losing Suter didn't help. And obviously, having their coach, Trotz, he's one of the best coaches in the league. He's really carried them forward with a great defensive system. They don't look particularly good. I don't think they're making the playoffs at all. I will say this, though. Seth Jones looks awesome. He looks great.
He scored his first goal the other night against New York, and he's going to have a great season. It's going to be awesome to watch the Calder race this year. Just so much talent on the ice. He was the age of 20.
Yeah, he was a steal for them. I mean, remember, he was projected to go first overall, like halfway through last season. He was just like consummate first overall. Everyone thought he'd be the first pick. He fell to 4th. So when he falls to 4th, Nashville just must have been drooling the fact that this kid could play with Weber on the top pairing. And how about being Seth Jones, right? You come into the NHL, who's the guy that you share the ice time with? Shea Weber, one of the best defensemen in the world. So I mean, you must be loving life if you're Seth Jones right now. But much like McKinnon, he looks ready to go. He doesn't look like a rookie out there. He looks very steady, very solid. You definitely see that glimpse of that offensive ability, and it's not out of the realm of possibility to think a couple years from now he might be the best defenseman in the world. He's got the full capabilities to be the next Chris Pronger and be one of the top defensemen in the NHL. So, I mean, it was a steal for Nashville to get him, and obviously Nashville always seems to have this incredibly deep defense. So, a couple years from now, Predators fans will not mind having Suter playing against them when you got Seth Jones playing the way he will be playing, and I'm guaranteeing you that he's going to be a great, great defenseman. But that's not enough for this year. Nashville is not making the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. No playoff appearance for them.
No playoffs for you. Come back 1 year. So 14th spot, the last place position, Edmonton Oilers, 1-3-1. Once again, they look like the Edmonton Oilers, all that young talent, and they just cannot find it. They just cannot take that next step. It's starting to be a little bit comical. I mean, it's been like we've been saying this for the past 3 years now. Like, okay, this is the year. Okay, this is the year. And Colorado's made the jump. Even Winnipeg has sort of made the jump. New York Islanders have made the jump. When are the Oilers going to take that next step and finally wrap up all that talent into this dominant package, which they should be able to do by now?
I disagree with you. I think that I don't even think they're going to be great this year. I think it's going to be next season. I mean,
no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
21. I didn't think that last year was going to be their breakout year either. They have a lot of talent, but when you look at the young players doing really well, they have a lot of leadership and a lot of great guys on their lines that have been in the NHL for a long time. Edmonton doesn't have that. They're building young, but that's all they have is youth. That's it. Taylor Hall's 21, Eberle's 24, Schultz is 23, Hopkins is 20, Yakupov's 19. Like, come on, right? I mean, there's nobody. Ryan Smith is the only guy on the team, and to lead these guys as a veteran role. And he's not even like normally a first line forward. You know, he's maybe a top 6 on your team, and I just think that's Edmonton's problem. So it's going to take them a little more time than some of the other younger rosters in the league to find their groove. And especially with a young coach now, that resets them almost. But I think that it's still the right move. I'm not worried about this roster. I think that they are going to be a force to be reckoned with. probably from the season of 2015 on. But I'm not surprised that they're at the bottom right now. I think that's fully expected based on how young their roster is, and it's not a bad thing. I think they're going to be great, and they just need to find those roles for those young guys. Andrew
Ference was a very good pickup. He looks very good. I'm really questioning Devan Dubnyk as their starter. I didn't think he was a starter last year, and I still don't this year. I think Edmonton needs goaltending more than anything else. I'm not a fan of Dubnyk. I don't think he is a starter in the NHL, at least not yet. But he's not that young.
I agree with you now.
He's not that young. He's not that young anymore either. Like, I wouldn't say he's growing pains. I think they legitimately need goaltending more than anything else. Trade one of your hotshot young forwards that you have a plethora of and get a star goalie.
But who do you trade? How can you justify? The thing about goaltending is that it's so inconsistent. You can get a goal. Let's look at Kerry Lettinen, who led the league in shutouts one year. Let's look at Jaguar, who won a Stanley Cup and hasn't been back since. Antti Niemi, same story. You could give away a guy like Neil Yakupov, and you think you're getting some awesome goalie, and all of a sudden he's done.
Well, no, I mean, if you do that trade, though, if it is a Yakupov, you would be getting back a goaltender of, Carey Price's caliber. That's what I'm saying. If
still look at Carey Price. We keep talking about Carey Price, and he's playing great. But we all know that he could fall off his game at any minute. There's no safe goalie in the league right now, not a single one. Ryan Miller's probably one of the best athletic goalies in the NHL, and he's just going to get shelled every game this season.
Honestly, though, with all that offensive talent up there, I think that's going to happen. I think they are going to have to get rid of they just signed Hopkins to a long-term deal. So, I mean, obviously, Eberle, Hopkins, and Hall, that is your starting line. And to be fair, Hall and Eberle have looked very good so far this year. And Hopkins, obviously, going forward.
Coming back from injury.
Yeah, I mean, he's looked decent as well, and he's going to be a great player. But, you know what? As crazy as it sounds, you may see that happen. You may see them ship off Nail Yakupov for and I'm saying when you get a goalie in return, I'm saying it's top 5 in the league. I'm saying you would be getting a guy like Miller or Price, and yes, it would be a risk. But going the other way around, it might be a risk for the team. What if Yakupov doesn't develop into the next Alexander Ovechkin, which may happen. We don't know. We can't guarantee that Yakupov is going to be a star in this league. I mean, it's most likely that he will. He looks great, and he's very talented. But honestly, for the Oilers to take that next step, unless Dubnyk just plays out of this world and shuts everyone up, which I don't see happening, I could see that happening. I could see you trading a guy like Yakupov, or maybe even a package deal like a Gagne and a pick for a decent goaltender. But I could see them moving somebody off their roster, one of their offensive guys, to get a goalie. I could see that happening in the offseason. Probably not at the deadline because they're not going to be in a playoff position most likely, but I could see that next offseason, them shipping off maybe Gagne and a pick, or maybe a Yakupov for
the only way
a star goalie.
Would happen, and that this would be hilarious. But let's say Edmonton wins the draft.
Yeah,
they're going for the first goalie. They got to go for the first goalie. I mean, it's almost stupid to say that because you never next year the first round. I don't know the prospects already, but this year it's forwards for the first 20 players before you even see a goalie.
Yeah.
But that would be what you would have to do. You'd have to try and find a way to draft an excellent goalie if you're not going to solve the problem this year, because I agree with you. Devan Dubnyk is 27 years old. His opportunity of time has been passed. Maybe you give him the chance this season just because you have to, but other than that, he's done. He's done, and Edmonton needs goaltending. They need goaltending, and they need size. Those are things that they are just without, and they aren't going to be competitive without.
What about this? Nail Yakupov and Devan Dubnyk for Robin Lehner, Ottawa.
See, that scares me because and the other argument with the goalie thing too is
Anderson's
put the goalie in the net, and that's it. The goalie's in the net, and he does what he does.
Anderson's pretty.
You can try him on different lines. You can try him in different positions. There's a little more flexibility with a forward or a defenseman than there is with a goalie.
Yeah, but
the goalie's got his pipes and his pads.
Leonard's going to be a star. He's the best young goalie in the NHL, bar none. He's going to be a starter probably next year, if not the year after. I mean, Ottawa's quickly approaching the Canucks syndrome, where you got two pretty much bona fide starters, and you got to get rid of one of them. Anderson's going to be their goalie for the foreseeable future. He's still decently young, and he's terrific. So, I mean, Anderson's going to be their guy probably for the next 4 or 5 years. So Leonard is not going to be on that team forever. And if you have the ability to get a guy like Yakupov, yes, you are trading probably the best young goalie in the NHL, much like LA probably felt when they got rid of Bernier, because he's going to be a stud. But if you can get a guy back like Yakupov, which there aren't many of those guys out there, I mean, that's a that's a win-win trade in my mind for both teams. Granted, we're playing armchair GM here, and realistically that trade isn't happening. But I could see something like that going down in the offseason, where a guy like Yakupov goes for a guy like Leonard, where both teams get something that they need, right? I mean, Ottawa...
If something does happen, I'd love to see it by the trade deadline, because I'm tired of 3 or 4 trade deadline seasons now that have been completely dead.
I know, right?
Like, moves are being made like a week before, and they're not even that big, and by the time you get to the deadline, you get nothing. So I hope you're right, and I hope it happens at the deadline, because I'd love to see some shuffling around, some teams trying to make runs to the postseason, and some major names being moved around. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely, bud. Well, hey, this has been one hell of a show. It's good hearing from you. Happy Thanksgiving. And we will be seeing you guys next Sunday evening. So, we are the Bandwagoners. My name is Andy Cole.
And my name is Justin Boniface. Thanks for listening.
Have a good night.